These mayoral candidate interviews were conducted in the context of ongoing public debate around Tūpuna Maunga Authority's plans to rid Tāmaki Makaurau Auckland's maunga, or volcanic cones, of thousands of healthy mature trees. The authority is a ratepayer-funded co-governance body established to administer the maunga. Its members comprise 6 iwi representatives and 6 Auckland Council ones. The authority is a statutory body. This means neither the Mayor nor Auckland Council has any power to change or challenge its co-governance status. We therefore did not ask candidates about their views on co-governance in itself. First of all, what is your view on the way Tūpuna Maunga Authority has engaged with local communities over the past 3 years?
I think it's very poor. I think they haven't done their duty. Their duty is to be a representative of the entire city, but they tend to have shown that, from what I've seen, that they're more about creating their own empire rather than doing what the people want, which is completely against the grain of what, to me, they're meant to be. I don't like it. It's sort of like that have your say system, which is a predetermined outcome, and they modify to make it suit their needs. So I find it very disappointing in the fact, and it's really, to me, a lot of that comes down to the chair, who I've got major issues with across the many hats he wears. So yeah, in short, not happy.
Okay, so for listeners who don't know who the chair is, you're referring to Paul Majuri, is that who you're referring to? Okay.
Yeah. I have issues with the fact that he wears too many hats, in my personal opinion. I think that needs to be questioned publicly, particularly when you've got the likes of Panuku involved, TMA, the fact that he has links to developers, and to me, there's too many red flags. So yeah, that just it adds up to not being good in my books.
Sure. Okay, so one of the incoming council's first tasks will be to select its 6 representatives to sit on the authority, because the authority is a co-governance body, so half its members are drawn from Auckland Council wards and local boards that have maunga in them. So what qualities will you be looking for? And bearing in mind that obviously there's an internal selection process, but the Mayor has influence in that. So what qualities will you be looking for in those representatives?
It goes back to what I just said on the previous question, really, people that want to represent the people. So I'll be very carefully looking at the new or existing councillors that get in to Auckland City to be in that governance role. I'll look at their historical voting. I'll talk to them about what they believe is the right process for Auckland Council when it comes to protection of trees or cutting them down. Why? What reason would you? And I'll base it on that. I think it has to be a reasonably thorough and tough questioning by the Mayor to get to the true colours of what someone is about. But I also believe, and I don't know if it can or can't be done, there should be some kind of clause or system in place where, if the Mayor is not happy with what's happening in TMA, that a position that was put in, if they're going against what they originally said, then they should have the ability to be removed for the good of the people. I think that's important as well, and you shouldn't have to stay there for the entire time. If you said one thing just to get in that position, then you prove to be something different. Well, yeah, the Mayor needs to step up to the plate on that one. So it will be for me, and it's a similar thing to Auckland Transport in a way. I want people there that want the best for the people. And so that's going to take a few questions and some tough interviews on my part.
Great. So look, you may have already answered the question, but if you want to just add anything, if elected as Mayor, what action will you take to prevent the Auckland Council's membership on the authority being stacked to represent a particular political persuasion?
Yeah, I think that previous answer covers that in a way. The Mayor has to, or the system has to have the ability for people to be removed. I think the public would like that. If we find someone's not doing their duties and the rest of the council go, yep, you're correct, things are not going as they're meant to be here, then sorry, you're off that board. And I think that is really important. And that's, to me, it's probably a step past democracy, because democracy is voting them on, and you don't normally get to vote someone off until the end of a term. But this is too important, and it's the same as the committees across the board. I think people should be, if they're not doing what, look, if someone has a leaning, a certain way that they believe in, that's fine. You hold that belief, but be genuine about it. Don't be disingenuous. Say it at the beginning and hold your stance. And again, I'll bark back to the likes of Auckland Transport and the CCOs, where I know that the council the committee on the council that has the oversight of the CCOs is stacked in one direction currently. Well, I'll be stacking it in the other direction. So in a way, it'll be the same as the TMA. And my influence will be to stack it with people that, have the belief of the people at the heart, and not only that, the maunga at heart.
Yeah.
And that's really important.
Yeah. So is there anything else you'd like to add in terms of specifically in terms of the maunga tree situation, what your view is in relation to saving or removing the trees, and any other aspects of the trees specific situation?
Yeah, it is sort of difficult for me because I'm not an arborist, and I'm not an expert on trees. The most I do is help the wife clean up the rubbish from the gardens when she's doing her thing. So she's way more green finger and aware of that than I am. But my gut tells me that we're not doing this right. Without being an expert, you just see what's going on. You go, this can't be right. When you look at Western Springs, when you look at the amount of trees that have been chopped down, and I think a perfect example is during the Mayoral debates, when Efeso Collins, for example, talks about how he wants to see a lot more trees being planted, with a big smile on his face, and I say and retort, well, maybe you should start by not chopping down thousands of trees every year, and you're part of that council that does it. The audience responds to that, and that to me tells me there's something here. There's something going wrong. And even though I'm not the expert, the audience are agreeing with what I'm saying. So yeah, there's something going on here that's not right.
Yeah.
So I want to see a complete change. And I'm not a tree hugger, but I don't think people who want to protect it generally are the heavy activist tree hugger, for want of definition, people. They're just humans. They're Aucklanders, they're New Zealanders that are going, what are we doing? This doesn't make sense. So that's really where my stance is. And I have spoken to a few arborists who've said, nah, things aren't adding up here. So let's bring those people into the table as well and get their opinion brought forward.
Exactly. So Auckland Council's governing body is responsible for reviewing and approving the authority's draft operational plan and budget every year. So how do you intend to vote if significant tree felling expenditure is proposed in future?
We can't have that. I mean, the tree felling alone is a problem for me. It seems to be rather a blunt tool on decision making. So we've got to do that. And the expenditure, the amount we are spending on this is insane. The expenditure is too much. I'm worried about, one of the things I want to do is bring in an independent performance review auditor. That was suggested in 2009 by the Royal Commission when they started the Super City. And I'm going to be directing that person towards the TMA and towards the contractors' contracts that are being awarded. And I'm going to ask them, please audit and please inspect what is going on, because again, I've got red flags, but I need proof, and I want someone to get in there and find out what's really going on. So I hope that answers the question. I'll be auditing what's been happening.
But just say, for argument's sake, the auditor finds that everything's above board, but there's budget requests for felling trees. How do you think you would vote? Yeah,
that's actually a really good question. Currently, I'd have to say I'd vote no against it. I'm just concerned about the amount of trees we're chopping down. I really am. But I need to be schooled more on things like scheduling of trees, which ones should be protected, which ones shouldn't. I'm not the expert on that, and I need the advice to get into it. It's just still my gut instinct saying, let's stop chopping them down. But like on many topics, happy to be schooled on it. And that's people like yourselves and arborists and people that can come in and give me the inside information, because I'm an engineer and that's what I know. So yeah, that's just me being honest about that. But again, no, I won't be voting to throw more money at chopping down trees at the moment, because we can't afford to do many things, and chopping down trees is not part of that budget.
Great, thank you. Is there anything else you'd like to briefly add in relation to the Maunga tree topic?
Not really. I think I'm pretty covered on that. That there's red flags for me, and that means investigations. And I love doing that. I love fault finding and trying to work out what's going on with things. So I'll be very happy to send the auditor in to say, let's get the truth about what's going on here. I do question heavily what happened at Western Springs, and I want to find out how that happened, where it went wrong, and make sure things like that don't happen again.
So what's your view on the way Tūpuna Maunga Authority has engaged with local communities over the last 3 years?
Well, I think the word I used was distressing. It hasn't been positive. It hasn't been even-handed. It seems to have come from a position where they've determined what they want before they've even spoken to people. And it's an approach which doesn't seem to reflect what the people in the district want. And the people in the district are a mixture of people who, from all backgrounds and all ethnicities. And the legislation actually stated that they had to consider all of the communities, not just one particular sector.
Yeah, thank you. Now, one of the incoming council's first tasks will be to select its 6 representatives to sit on the authority for the coming 3 years. What qualities will you be looking for in those representatives, bearing in mind that the whole council gets to have a say, as do the local boards with Maunga in them, but the mayor's obviously an important stakeholder in this?
Well, definitely, and the mayor probably is going to be the leading decider of who gets there when we shell out bits and pieces. I'll be looking for for candidates who balance their existing views rather than reinforce them. And so we need to have a situation where there is vigorous debate from both sides, so we get something that goes down the middle between the strong views of those proposing a single ethnic view of things and those who are representing the whole community. It's not just about trees either. The idea they're driving sports clubs off very long held positions on some maunga is it's nasty, I'd have to say.
Thank you. So if elected as mayor, what action will you take to avoid the authority's Auckland Council membership being stacked to represent a particular political persuasion?
Well, voters have got a real choice this time, because my only real opponent is Efeso, is backed by the Greens and the Labour. So he won't be able to question anything that comes down from above. So I'll make absolutely sure that that doesn't happen. I'm in the unusual position of having been appointed by both John Key and Helen Clark to things in the past. So I'm bang in the middle. And you can expect a very middle of the road view that will balance whatever doctrinaire views are already there.
Great, thank you. So can you tell me, just sort of in general, what's your view on the Maunga tree situation, particularly in relation to the trees, the proposal to fell the trees?
Well, during the lockdown, when the streets were clear, I got on my bicycle, and my wife was in hospital at the time, so I couldn't see her. And I spent the days, I pedalled to every maunga and climbed them. And the nicest part about it is going up through the trees. And I think Mount Hobson is probably the best example of all those, because it's the trees that make it lovely. And they are a nice mixture. And amongst there were walnuts and things like that, which are definitely not indigenous trees, but they are lovely. We have some that are deciduous and some that are evergreen. And we're one of the few countries in the world where native things weren't deciduous. But I think that I like the colours, and I like the peace, and I like the look of it. And I notice on my own subdivisions, when I do subdivisions, I always leave as many trees as I can, because I need to explain to people, you actually make more money if you leave the trees up. For those people who don't have a a holistic view about trees, I can get them by saying, you'll actually make more money if you leave the trees there. And they go, oh, really? I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah, a few developers could take a leaf out of that book, certainly the ones in our local area anyway. Yes.
Well, I'm happy to talk to some of those guys and say, mate, you know, think about that from that point of view. It's not just if you haven't got a green bone in your body, just use the money-making bones a bit more cleverly.
So in terms of the Maunga trees, do you support them being felled or saved or something in between?
I think they should just be managed to keep nice cover and continuously improve it if they can. And notice that our life is enriched by having a mixture of deciduous as well as evergreen. And one of the nice things about some little towns, and I think of Kaya, which is a town with probably 80% Maori population, and in Northland it is heavily planted out in deciduous trees, and they have wonderful autumns and springs there, and we don't kind of get that anymore. And Auckland is becoming bleakly grey with building if we're not careful.
Yeah, exactly. So Auckland Council's governing body is responsible for reviewing and approving the authority's draft operational plan and budget every year. So how do you intend to vote if there's significant tree felling expenditure proposed in those future budgets?
Well, I can't believe how much money they spend cutting down trees. I mean, my last house looked over Western Springs before we moved to K Road, and I quite like those pine trees. It looked good, nice in the background. But then they managed to convince themselves they shouldn't be there for various reasons. And they managed to spend $800,000 cutting down some pine trees. A chat to any forestry contractor could have done that for $15,000. So even if you are going to cut them down, don't do it in such a stupid manner. But I think that one of the best ways to prevent bad things happening is starve organisations of money to do bad things.
Yeah. So do I take it from that response that you wouldn't vote the Tūpuna Maunga Authority significant budget to fell trees?
Oh, I would be culling that part of their budget.
Yeah. Also, is there anything else you'd like to briefly add in relation to the Maunga tree topic?
Well, the Maunga Authority is an example of co-governance, and it should work better than it is. It's been given to us. There's been a lot of people are saying, I'm going to get rid of co-governance. Well, it's part of the law, so you've got to learn how to make sure that it is co-governance, not mono-governance. It's not just trees. I mean, the distressing information we were given by the soccer club from out at Mangere Mountain was just vindictive, nasty behaviour, really. And I don't play soccer, but those people have been there for a long time and invested a lot. And using the leasehold arrangements to be vindictive about sports people is just not what I think the thing was ever set up for. And I'll make sure that we have enough people on there that we can oppose that sort of situation. And I'll have some influence in even who are supported on the actual Maori side of that too. I mean, I'm quite close to Ngāti Whātua having their battles with various other mana whenua sort of invading the place, and I'm well aware that all is not well on both sides of this equation. So it does need to be redressed, and it was set up with the best of intentions, but the road to perdition is paved with good intentions, and so we need to correct that and seriously correct that.